How's it going, everyone? Mr. Prolific here with episode 2 of our podcast with Cody. This is my side podcast, Prolific Thinking. It's kind of like part 2.5. We did record part 2 last week, but there were some issues with the Zoom recordings. It ended up getting all chopped up and hacked up, and I couldn't really salvage it. So we kind of scrapped that. And we're just going to move on to the end of our Packers offseason analysis, where we're just going to do a breakdown of the 2020-2021 schedule. Cody, you ready to tackle through it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I figure, we kind of lost, about 3 hours of recording, talking about Pettine's defense and breakdown of the depth chart. Maybe after we talk about the schedule, we can do a really brief bare bones recap of that. But yeah, it's too bad that was lost to the annals of time. There's a lot of good discussion. But honestly, I'm excited to talk about the schedule. I think that's probably one of the more exciting topics we've talked about so far.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a good solid 2.5 to almost 3 hours of podcasting we did, and I thought we did a great job on it. But we'll probably come back to you again later in the off season in the summertime when we get an updated depth chart. That was one conversation I really enjoyed having, where me and you kind of broke down the depth chart hypotheses, and we kind of had some similarities and some differences. It was good contrast as well as some similarities. Before we jump right into it, by the way, Cody, did you get a chance to listen to Aaron Rodgers' press conference today? Today was the first day that he addressed the media since the NFL draft.
I have not. I did get a notification about it, but I haven't checked it out yet. Anything good in there, or just your run of the mill off season talk?
It was pretty run of the mill. He did admit that he was surprised when the Packers moved up to get Jordan Love, but he didn't seem really peeved by it. He seemed like a consummate professional about it. Gave some very PR responses for every question he was asked. He understands why the Packers did it. When he was asked, obviously a lot of reporters asked him about the similarities between him and Favre, and now Love and Rodgers. And while he acknowledged that, like with the age and everything, that those are some similarities, he did acknowledge that there is a big difference between the two. And it was almost kind of like Rodgers giving like a lowly jab at the reporters or at the media with this. And he said that the main difference is the fact that Favre kind of was already waffling about his retirement decision at 35, 36. Rodgers said that he's already made it well known he's got a strong desire to play into his 40s. So he kind of left it at that, but it was almost like him kind of giving a subliminal message saying like he really doesn't understand why the Packers did it, because he doesn't have any plans on going anywhere anytime soon. Now, he did acknowledge that in order for him to keep his job, he needs to play at a level where it makes it virtually impossible for the Packers to move on from him. But he did say he understands why the Packers made that decision. So.
Yeah, and I think Aaron understands it's a business. Sometimes it can be a cold business, and he had a front row seat to watching a legend sort of run out of town. Not to say that the Packers were entirely at fault there. Brett certainly played a role, but I honestly, I think things probably end the same. I don't think Aaron ends his career with the Packers. But I think it will be a smoother transition. Just given the past, I think both sides are going to have a better understanding of how to move forward. If Aaron keeps playing at an elite level and continues to improve his game, maybe we're not even talking about this in 4 years because Jordan Love is traded. You never know. But we spent a good amount of time talking about the whole Love situation back in the first episode. I think it might be interesting to revisit it once we've seen a little bit of preseason action, actually seen the guy, out on the field with our players. But right now, this is Aaron Rodgers' team. Everyone knows it. He's confident that first round rookie or not, no one's coming in taking his job yet.
Right. Do you think there's going to be a preseason this year?
Well, that's a good question. Frankly, if they cut the preseason, I don't think that's the only thing that gets cut.
I would agree with that.
I think if preseason doesn't happen, there's probably going to be a shortened season overall. I'm hoping we don't have a shortened season. I hope it can be a regular season. Obviously, not everything's going to be the same as usual. Some teams might be playing games in front of empty stadiums or stadiums that are 25% full. Some teams, they might not even be allowed to play at their home stadiums, depending on the state they're in. A lot is still up in the air. But until we have more solid information, the only thing we can do is go ahead with the assumption that the NFL's put out, that it's business as usual and football is going to happen. And I know preseason isn't the most exciting viewing for fans, but I do hope it happens because I think it's really vital for those backer roster guys and young guys to actually get the game action, real different environment than practice.
And you never know, like that's the chances for those like undrafted guys to kind of make or break the team. Like chances of someone making the team as an undrafted free agent without any preseason reps is going to be pretty slim to none, and their backs are already kind of up against the wall. Like they got like a snowball's chance of really making the roster as it is. I mean, those like Victor Cruz type players don't really come around too often, but they, in using like a Victor Cruz example, he used the preseason to kind of catapult himself into a prolific spot. So my last question before we jump right into the roster is, in just tailing back to the whole Rodgers press conference thing today. If Rodgers were to leave Green Bay and finish his career elsewhere, do you think that Rodgers would have the same vendetta against the Packers and want to go to a division rival, or would he be okay with going like elsewhere or even to like an AFC conference? Like, where do you see his mindset? Do you think he'd want to stick it to Green Bay for drafting Love and eventually replacing him in a few years, or?
I think every player who has to leave his original team not on his terms, I definitely think there's a revenge factor there. You see guys signing with division rivals all the time. It's a very common thing. I think probably the most high-profile example of it recently was Richard Sherman from the Seahawks to the Niners. Specifically went there so he could play the Seahawks. Melvin Gordon this offseason going from Chargers to Broncos, he said specifically wanted to play the Broncos. I think that's natural. I think what we saw with Brett really wanting to get to the Vikings and, had to have a bridge year with the Jets before he could do it. But I do think that was a very emotional, personal vendetta because, frankly, neither side handled it as well as they could have. I don't think we see that with Aaron. I don't – if he has the choice between – going to a contender out of the division versus going to a division team just to stick it to us, I think he's going to take the contender, 9 times out of 10. I think his dream scenario would be to go play for his hometown team, San Francisco 49ers. It would be a fitting end to his career, the team that passed him up for the number 1 overall choice, put that chip on his shoulder all those years. There's been talk that 49ers could be a destination, but, once again, this is all, in my mind, this is minimum 2 years out, probably 3, if not more, who knows? So it's all speculation at this point, but yeah. I do believe Aaron's going to handle himself as a professional. Make no mistake, though. If he is forced to leave the Packers, not on his terms, I think he's going to relish any matchups he has against the Packers.
I would agree. I wouldn't. So I don't think he would go like revenge factor in terms of like Favre level. I think he'd be more entertaining of leaving the division. But I would be hard pressed if you told me that was if he didn't go to a team that at least played Green Bay at least once on their schedule that year. Um, so I just think that it's kind of like one like she just wants to stick to him one time. And holy cow, if he did go to the 49ers anytime soon, that would be look out league, look out NFL. That would be dirty. So
Well, hey,
um,
what we need to hope as Packers fans is that year two of the system, just more years of gaining strength after that collarbone injury, and also buying into the system a little more, getting more comfortable with young players. We need to hope that this guy, I think it's really overblown the quote unquote decline in his play. Yeah, he hasn't been MVP level, but he's still at an elite level play. And I do think, frankly, I think he's going to have a better year this year than he did last year. And if he keeps that up, that's best case scenario is Aaron plays so out of his mind that we forget all about Jordan Love.
yeah, I think this whole thing's kind of getting blown out of proportion a little bit. Rodgers is still Rodgers. He ain't going anywhere anytime soon. He's still one of the best to ever lace him up and step onto a football field, and he's going to be that way for the foreseeable future. So, the best chance Green Bay has to win games right now and into the future is still Aaron Rodgers under center for the Green Bay Packers. With that being
Speaking
said,
of winning games, let's get to it, man. Let's
get
break
right
the schedule down and
let's get right into it.
see what
So
we stack up as in 2020.
So bear with me, fans. This will get better. I'm currently going through and basically teaching myself third-party video editing software. So the presentation will get better, but I think this is going to be a step up from our first episode. I'm actually going to do some screen sharing and then go through and actually have some animations and some different graphics to put up on the screen for you, so you don't just have to sit there and look at mine and Cody's ugly mugs for the next 45 minutes. So
I do see that you brought the guns out today, trying to give a little bit of viewing pleasure for the audience.
It was nice this morning. I was outside doing a little landscaping here on the property. So plus still rocking the Green Bay gear though, whether it's a cutoff showing the guns or if it's a hoodie. So I don't know with the screen sharing, by the way, fans. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see snapshots of me and Cody talking at the same time, but either way, the audio should still be there for us. So we'll see how this goes. I won't really know until after I stop this recording and see, but it'll be a learning experiment, and we'll go from there. So we'll jump right into it.
Week one.
Week one. So week one, we got the Packers visiting the Minnesota Vikings. We're starting the season off on the road, Cody. It's a 1:00 game, Sunday, September 13th. What's your thoughts on this one?
Tough opening matchup.
Yeah.
I think Vikings are probably the most talented team in the division other than us. And they have been very tough at their home stadium there. We stole our first victory last year. And, frankly, Dalvin Cook didn't play in that game. Kirk Cousins laid an egg. I don't know if we have that luck again this year. It's there are two schools of thought. Some people, they like to start the season out with some easier games, gain a little momentum, confidence. Some people like to go straight into the fire and find out what kind of team you've got right away. What do you think about this, Andrew?
So I love this matchup. I'm going to kind of go against the grain with you on this one and say I think this is the perfect matchup for us to kick off the season. So not I know with this whole COVID thing, we might not have a preseason. Might not have a training camp either. Now I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. I think it's like the number's 9 to 13 come out to me, but Minnesota lost 9-13 starters last year. They also brought in 15 rookies, the most in the modern NFL draft era. They are loaded with inexperienced young players. That's going to take time to get acclimated to the NFL. So I love this. I think Minnesota's going to be tough because the playing in that arena is just tough in general.
Sorry,
But
Mr. P. I got to
Go
interrupt you for a second.
Go
I'm sorry, my dog is losing her mind right now. You mind putting a brief hold on the recording while I let this maniac out of my house?
Sure. We'll put a quick pause on this, you guys.
All right, hey, don't skip ahead to week 2. We still got some discussion on week
We'll go
1
back.
here.
So,
All right,
you do that. I'll keep talking to my fans about this. So as I said, between like 9-13 different starters that are from last year that they lost, I personally love this matchup. Not only are we getting a young, inexperienced Vikings team, but we are also gonna be playing them in their house, which means by the time some of these rookies get a little seasoned, get a little bit acclimated to the NFL, they're going to have to come into Lambeau later in the season, and then we get them later at home. So potentially when they are going to be a tougher matchup is when we're going to be able to play them at home. And if we have to start any game on the road, especially a division rival on the road, I would want Minnesota out of the other 3 teams that we have available. I am going to chalk this up with a Packers W on this one. So I think we're going to start our season off 1-0. I don't know if this is going to be one of the games that's going to be broadcasted on national level. I think just because Minnesota has such a young team with so many rookies, it's not going to be the elevated media sensation that it once was. Maybe in the year or two past, Minnesota. I mean, I think their offense took a hell of a hit as well with losing Stephon Diggs. I mean, they still got Dalvin Cook. He's going to be fresh. They're going to lean on him. They still got Adam Thielen, and they also picked up a really good, talented rookie receiver who I think is going to make some really good waves here in the NFL by the end of the season with Justin Jefferson out of LSU. So I really think that Green Bay is going to come out of week 1-0 with a pretty convincing W, I think, though.
Well, I just came in and, I like – I'm sure you said a lot of insightful, intelligent things there that ended with us coming out 1-0 after week 1. I can definitely see it. Sort of what you were saying right before I had to get up. We're the veteran team. We were in the championship game last year, returning a lot of our starters. Minnesota, on the other hand, I don't know many teams in recent memory that have lost so many starters. Not that they were top level starters. Maybe Stephon Diggs, the other guys, not so much. But still, it's a ton of turnover. And like you said, 15 draft selections, most since I think 1992 or 3.
Something like that.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of youth there. You can counter that with talking about how long Mike Zimmer has been there. Veteran coach. He knows how to run his team. They're still carrying over the most important position, quarterback. I think it's going to be a very tough game. I could certainly see us pulling out the W. I could also see a letdown. I do think a lot of this is going to come down to shortened off season. Usually favors defense and usually favors veterans. So that's a bit of a toss-up. We're kind of the more veteran team at this point, although their coaching staff is more seasoned than us. But their defense historically has been more reliable than ours. you got to hope we take a step in year 2, which year 3 of Pettin's system, which we talked about quite a bit in that Lost episode. But it's a tough one for me to call. But so you're calling the W in week 1?
I am calling the W. I still think it's going to be a pretty tough matchup. Minnesota always plays us pretty tough, especially in that stadium. But I do see us coming out of there. I'm not ready to put like a number on it, but I'm thinking at least 7 to 10 points. I think we might come out of this one with a W. So,
well, let's. Here, I'm going to make my prediction here, and I think this game is going to hinge on a single turnover. And if I put it in that frame of reference, our boy Aaron Rodgers ain't turning the ball over. Most of our skill position players, they're pretty good with the rock in their hands. Not a lot of fumblers. Vikings, yeah, I mean, I don't trust Kirk Cousins as much as Aaron Rodgers. And if you're putting a rookie wide receiver out there as one of your primary targets, I'm gonna go down on a limb and agree with you. I think we steal a W based on a timely turnover, and we're just less likely to do that than the Vikings are at this point in the season.
Absolutely. You want to make a bold prediction, like who might be the game MVP on this one? We don't gotta go there. It just kind of came to me a little something to maybe make a bold prediction. As I said, like it could be completely erroneous. It could be like Mason Crosby or J.K. Scott, So
yeah, I mean, I hope the game isn't that ugly. I'll go ahead and I'll say Aaron Jones. I'm going to say he picks up where he left off and lets the young buck AJ Dillon know that he's got to earn his reps.
I would agree with that as well. I think I just looked it up on my phone. They Minnesota. The first article that I looked at said that they lost 8 defensive starters from last year. So I think 8. I think Aaron Jones is going to gash them bad. So Aaron Jones, MVP of the game. Moving on to week 2. Got the Detroit Lions coming into Lambeau. It's a 1:00 game on Sunday, September 20th. Weather's probably going to be still pretty warm out this time, but that Lambeau crowd's going to be rocking for the first home game of the season. Detroit's a pretty young team too, but Detroit really plays us tough. Like we swept them last year, but if you remember, I think Detroit played us the toughest out of the 3 teams last year of our division rivals. So
we did come away with 2 victories, but
skin of our teeth.
You can make the argument that we really stole at least one of them. Mm-hmm. And just really going back over the past several years, Detroit has played us tough. And they do have some marquee talent. Say what you will about Matthew Stafford's career record. The guy I think he leads the league in fourth quarter comebacks right now. Maybe someone like Brady's ahead of him, but I think since he was drafted, he is a clutch comeback kind of player. They've added some juice to their running game with the DeAndre Swift draft pick. 1-2 punch with him and Kerryon Johnson. Kenny Galladay, he is emerging as one of the best receivers in the
sure.
And TJ Hawkinson, a guy that a lot of Packers fans were pounding the table for last year. He had a very quiet rookie season, but you got to remember his first game, he looked like a superstar. I think he had something like 9 or 10 receptions, over 100 yards, touchdown, solid blocker. He ended up dealing with some injuries as the year went on. But, Detroit, we look at them as living in the cellar of the NFC North, we got to remember there is a lot of top-notch talent on this team. They just haven't really managed to put it all together since, probably Jim Caldwell was probably the last guy to sort of get a head on their shoulders. I know we've talked about it a little bit before. I don't have much respect for Matt Patricia as a coach. I think he lives off of Belichick's coattails. Really glad they kept him another year and decided to go defense instead of getting one of those top young quarterbacks. I do like Stafford, but getting older, has some injuries. But all that said, there's a lot of talent. If Patricia can finally put something together, could be a tough game.
Did you give a prediction for this one yet?
Oh, we're gonna win. Home game against the Lions. We're protecting the house. They've won one game at Lambeau in the last 30 years.
Yeah. So, you know what? I would go against the grain and say that if we were the away team on this one, I think Detroit would sneak one away on us on this one, and we would be 1-1. But it being the first home game of the season, I do make a prediction that we will go 2-0 after this game. It will be a lot closer than probably a lot of the people think it will be. I do think that this might be somewhat of a coming out party for, I can just see the passing game kind of really getting going in this game for Detroit. As you said, Kenny Galladay, he's coming in. I believe it's his third or potentially fourth year. He could break out in a big way. I mean, I see him being potentially a top 10 receiver at the end of the season going in. He's got that type of skills. TJ Oxen seemed to, as you said, transition, which is extremely rare for a tight end do. Really came out of the gate strong after that first game there. Then he kind of pumped the brakes a little bit, and then he got that concussion, and the year just kind of got derailed from there. But he's kind of a do-it-all tight end. He was a player I really wanted Green Bay to take last year in the draft. He just kind of didn't follow us, and then that defense is better than some people give it credit for. However, I mean, I am going to go with Green Bay in this one, and I do think that this is going to be a game where Davante Adams kind of feasts a little bit. I think this is going to be welcome to the NFL, Jeff Okudah type game, young rookie. So
young man, you might have been the top corner picked in the draft. You come from a prestigious program. You haven't faced the likes of Davante Adams yet. I can tell you that.
Yep, I'm not sure who they're playing. Who Detroit's playing in Week 1? I'm gonna probably guess that they're playing the Bears.
That's actually a good question. I'm gonna look that up for you real quick, PP.
I think it's the Bears. I do believe all the teams play a division rival in Week 1 and also in Week 17. I know they do in Week 17, except for a couple teams. Like the Super Bowl winner, I think doesn't play a division rival. While you are looking that up,
you are correct. The Lions are hosting the Bears in Week 1.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Allen Robinson is no Davante Adams. Davante Adams is going to take Okudah's lunch money and spend it all. He is going to eat. So
are you calling it right now, Davante Adams, game MVP?
Absolutely. I'm seeing upwards of potentially 10 catches, maybe $120, $130, and bold prediction, 2 TDs. 2 TDs. He's going to start the year off right.
All right. Well, I'm liking the sounds of it so far. 2-0 in the division. Already facing the stiffest competition in the division. Let's take it to Week 3.
Now things get a little interesting. It's our first primetime game of the season. We got Sunday nighter against the New Orleans Saints, and we are going down to Louisiana. What do you think, Cody? Breeze, another year older, but that's still New Orleans is a team to be reckoned with. When you think of just consistently good football teams, Green Bay obviously comes to mind, but New Orleans Saints are right there too. They just always seem to be in the hunt and in the thick. So
For sure. And people forget that Sean Payton and Drew Brees, they got a lot of slack a few years back. I think they had 4 losing seasons in a row, which frankly that would not have stood in Green Bay. I can only imagine the articles they'd be writing about Aaron Rodgers with 4 losing seasons in a row. But they get the rookie phenomenon, Alvin Kamara, in the 3rd round. And, he came in and paired with Mark Ingram and gave that team a running punch that has really allowed Breeze to flourish. Granted, all those losing years, he was leading the league in passing, but he wasn't as lethal as he is now with that running game. Last year, Kamara banged up a little bit, didn't have as great of a year as everyone expected. I fully expect that he's going to be itching to prove his place in the league. I think it might rub him the wrong way a little bit that all of a sudden people aren't talking about Alvin Kamara so much. You're talking about Christian McCaffrey getting the richest contract in the league. Guys like Zeke Elliott. I think Kamara wants to come out and show that he is an elite running back. They've already got possibly the best wide receiver in the league in Michael Thomas. Certainly a prolific, to say the least. And then Drew Brees, guy keeps defying age. If this game were in Lambeau in late December, might be a different story with that old injured arm of his. But week 3 in New Orleans, after 2 division games, I say we do lose this one. And frankly, I think we lose by more than 1 touchdown.
Yep, I see this kind of being a little bit of a trap game for us as well. I see this potentially being a shootout, pretty high scoring game. I see kind of both of the running backs kind of going off in this game with both Jones and Kamara. I think that the weapons that the Saints add in this offseason, so they add a brand new center and Cesar Ruiz, and so they're and then they also added perhaps one of the best wide receiver twos still playing right now in Emmanuel Sanders.
Yes.
To pair him with Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. This is a very dangerous offense. I think that our defense are going to have their hands full in this game. I'm not saying that it's like they're going to blow us out of the water or anything. I think Green Bay's got more than a chance to win this game. I think it's almost like a 50-50 split that Green Bay could come out with this with a W. But I just it's just one of them feelings. Sometimes you just get a feeling going into it that I think Alvin Kamara is just going to go off. And I don't think it's going to be so much even the running game. I think he's just going to kind of kill us in like the screen game, that short passing game. He's just going to get players out in space, and we're just going to have a really tough time with him. And also, Green Bay has fared pretty well on Sunday Night Football, though. I believe we are 11-6 on Sunday Night Football since 2006. So we do play best on Sunday Night Football as compared to like Monday Night Football, but I think New Orleans Saints probably squeaks this one out. I think we're going to go into week 4 at 2-1.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think Alvin Kamara is going to be MVP of this game. I mean, frankly, we haven't done much to fix our run defense, and until I see a linebacker that proves they can cover running back in space, I'm not willing to say we have one yet. So I think Kamara is going to be a handful. I do think they win the game, which that's going to be tough because come end of year, this game could have huge seeding implications.
Yeah.
Now, I do think the Saints, I think they're a little bit snake bitten. They seem to be a team that is great in the regular season every year. They look like a juggernaut that no one wants to face. And, man, they have just lost in heartbreaking fashion the last 3 postseasons in a row. Frankly, I think the same thing happens. I don't see this team getting over the hump. But but I do think they steal this one, and that could have major seeding implications later on.
I am going to make 2 bold predictions on this game. And I like to make these bold predictions because whether I'm correct or incorrect, I do like to come back and I just like to see my thought process at the time compared to, in the future. And sometimes I'm right on the money. Sometimes I'm way out there in left field. My 2 predictions for this game is you're going to see a lot of influence from the draft a couple of years ago in this game. I see Marcus Davenport having himself a game. Maybe 2 to 2.5 sacks in this game. I
Really?
see. Yep. I think Marcus
You think
Davenport
he's going to feast on Wagner?
potentially. Yep. I think I think Wagner's gonna have a hard time on him. But at the same time, I think with Kamara going off, I think him going off will be a direct result of J.R. Alexander completely shutting. Well, you can't completely shut down Michael Thomas. Let's get that clear right now. You can't completely shut him down, but uh, since we're on the topic of bold predictions, Michael Thomas will fit his worst game of the season will be against Jair Alexander in week 3.
Ooh, that is a bold prediction, my friend. But I can buy what you're selling there. I think Alexander, he's shown so much promise his rookie year. Continued to be a very good performer last year, although I do think maybe a step back. I think year 3 he comes in with something to prove, and he wants his name known as one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL. So I can see it. I'm going to say Michael Thomas limited to under 80 yards, 0 touchdowns.
Now watch, Mike Patton puts Kevin King on Michael Thomas whole game now because we made this prediction. That's just kind of how it goes. So moving on to week 4, we're doubling up on the primetime games, and we're going up against primetime's OG team, the Atlanta Falcons. We got a Monday nighter. Just a little FYI for you guys: Green Bay's Monday night record since 2006 is 5-8. We are 5-8 on Monday night football games in the last 15 years. However, we're coming up against a Falcons team coming up to Lambeau, and we're coming up against a Falcons team that I'm not quite sure if they have a real identity at the moment. Obviously, they were a very prolific offense there a couple years ago. They're still extremely dangerous there with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. They also just add Todd Gurley. He's kind of a little bit of an enigma. Nobody knows where he's going to be at. If they get the best version of Todd Gurley, I see this Atlanta Falcons team being pretty nasty, especially on the turf there. So thank God that they're coming up to Lambeau, playing on the grass. I think this is going to be a game where our offense is going to kind of break out in this game. It's going to kind of be a little bit of the opposite of what we saw in the playoffs a few years ago, where the Falcons offense just ate our lunch and Julio Jones just went off on Ladarius Gunter all game long. I think you're going to see kind of a little bit of a flip-flop with this, and I think this is going to be a game where both the passing game and the running game really just kind of has themselves a night. I see it being kind of high scoring, but I do see Green Bay just kind of pulling it out. I see in our defense just it's going to be one of them games I think comes down to who makes more plays and who has the least amount of turnovers. And I do think that we probably pick off Matt Ryan at least once, if not twice, in this game. And I see us coming out with a W on this and going 3-1 on the season. Cody, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. I of all the games we've looked at so far, I got to say I think this one has the greatest potential for being just a barn burner shootout. Falcons, very inconsistent team. They seem like they can never string 2 quality seasons together. Last year they got struck by a lot of injuries. They're really ravaged by injuries. But, you got to remember, there is still a ton of top-notch talent on that team. I've never been the biggest Matt Ryan believer. I think he's a little overrated, but at the same time, he's definitely in the upper echelon of quarterbacks. I'd say top 10. You pair him with Julio Jones, which, I mean, you're going up against Michael Thomas one week and then Julio Jones after that. There's definitely potential for a letdown. If you're putting so much effort and concentration into Michael Thomas, it's a lot to expect shutdown performance 2 weeks in a row.
Absolutely, yeah.
But even if we were to shut down Julio, you go to Calvin Ridley. He's one of the top number 2 receivers in the league, I think, and still ascending. And then they just traded for Hayden Hurst. Not quite as proven as Austin Hooper, who they had. But then again, the guy was a first-round pick, and he has shown a lot of athletic ability and speed. This offense might really help him blossom. And then, the stick that stirs the drink here, I think Todd Gurley has more juice left than people are giving him credit for.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, I think a lot of his dip in production last year wasn't so much related to his knee. It was related to how the Rams utilized him. As the season goes on, I definitely see Gurley wearing down. In the first month, when teams are probably going to be relying on the running game a little more while their passing games get going,
Mm-hmm.
I could see Todd Gurley having a big game that sets up play action. So like I said, I fully expect both offenses are going to be firing on all cylinders here. Lots of big plays. Frankly, some of that could be from broken defenses, and some of it's just going to be from ballers going out and balling. At the end of the day, though, like you said, I think this is going to come down to a few clutch plays, and I think our defense has more horses at this point, which you don't get to say that often. But I think this is going to be one of those sort of games, real close, deep into the third, and then there's going to be a turnover that just breaks this thing open in the fourth. And I do agree. I think we head into our bye week at 3-1.
Mm-hmm. I will mention on Todd Gurley, I did kind of mention a little bit earlier when I said he is an enigma, and I still support that. I do believe he signed a 1-year contract with the Falcons. So Todd Gurley is going to owe nothing, or the Atlanta Falcons owe nothing to Todd Gurley. He's on a 1-year deal. They are going to try to maximize their return as much as possible. They do not care if they wear him into the ground. They will run him until the wheels fall off because they do not have a long-term investment in him. I think within the first month, you will still be seeing a Todd Gurley. If he's capable of doing that, you will be seeing a Todd Gurley getting the ball as much as he possibly can handle. So that being said,
before we move on, who is your MVP pick for Week 4 against the Falcons?
Man. Good question here. I do see this kind of being a fairly high-scoring game. However, as we both kind of are in agreement, it's going to come down to who makes a better play in clutch moments. I think you're going to see this coming down to just kind of like a defensive stop. I think this is going to be a game that you see Matt Ryan kind of stealing his lunch money a little bit. I'm going to say Zadarius Smith or the Smith brothers in this one are going to be the MVPs. Not even if they get like the sack totals, like they'll clearly get some sacks in this game, I think, but also they might be forcing Matt Ryan into some erratic throws that lead to interceptions at the same time. So unless that ball lands into like the same player like 2 or 3 times, I see the Smith brothers kind of being the MVP of this one.
Yeah, I could definitely see a good game from either of them. But when you're talking MVP, the player most responsible for the win, I think this is going to be an Aaron Rodgers statement game that the old man ain't done yet. I think this could be one of those 4 or 5 touchdown performances. I think, 4 weeks in, I think the offense is going to start clicking, and I just don't have a lot of faith in that Atlanta Falcons defense. And like I said, I do think we're going to be, going blow for blow deep into the game. So I could see Aaron putting on one of his performances. And, just as a quick aside, I think my favorite Aaron Rodgers performance of all time was the on the Super Bowl run, going down to Atlanta. And man, that's when I knew that guy was special. I'd love to see a little more of that magic here in 2020.
We should dedicate a future podcast episode to breaking down like our top 10 favorite Aaron Rodgers games. We'll reserve that for when I get a little bit more prolific with the video editing, and I can throw in some actual screenshots and some actual clips of each of the games that we talk about. So with that being said, we move on to our Week 5 bye. Probably not too much to say here other than the fact that we are one of the first teams to have their bye. The first week that any team has a bye is in Week 5, and we are on that list. So we are the first team to get a bye week.
Don't like it one bit.
I tend to prefer the bye weeks a little bit later in the season. I mean, it can go both ways, right? Maybe this is something that kind of benefits us in terms of like with potentially missing training camp and missing preseason games. Like this could be a game that we kind of utilize as an extra week for training camp stuff, where we can kind of get ahead of the curve a little bit instead of prepping for an opponent. For an opponent, we can kind of clear up some in-house stuff. Maybe it works out in our advantage in that sense, but if everything's full go, I'm usually not a fan of having a bye week this early. But
I mean, I think it's an interesting perspective there that if with a shortened off season, maybe it is a rocky first month for a lot of teams, and perhaps we're eking out wins in much the same fashion we did last year. The ball bounces right, we get some lucky breaks, and we manage to make our luck, but not always look good doing it. So, maybe the early bye does help in that regard, and help us get our footing and really hone in on our identity after 1 month of play. But that said, for me, the bye week has always been about injuries, rest and recovery, and 4 weeks into the season, you hope you haven't suffered that many catastrophic injuries yet. Really, I've always preferred a week 8, 9, 10 bye, get some guys fresh for that stretch run, because this leaves us with a long stretch with no breaks on our march to the playoffs.
Yep.
We both agree we're going in 3-1. Can we maintain that momentum?
It's a great question. I've always wondered why do we have bye weeks? Like, when was the bye week implemented? That's something I should research on the side here. But I've always dreaded the bye week because that 2 weeks in the middle of football season going without Packer football seems like the longest 2 weeks of your entire life, really. I hate when that Sunday or that Monday comes around and there is no Packer football to be seen, and you're just like, can't we just get rid of one extra week, get rid of week 17 or whatever, and just have no teams have a bye week? I just love Packer football so much that I just hate the bye week that much more. It just is what it is. Or if you're gonna give a team a bye week, give every team the same bye week. Week halfway through the season, everyone gets the bye week, and there's no football on a Sunday. I know the NFL would never go for that because they lose millions, if not billions, of dollars on a week without being able to broadcast. But it is what it is. I just hate the freaking bye week because I love Packer football. So. That being said, oh boy, this might be the game I am looking forward to the most on the schedule, but I think everyone's looking forward to when Tom Brady and the Buccaneers playing your team. We are going down to Raymond James Stadium, Cody, for a Sunday game on October 18th at 4:30 in the afternoon. You know this game is going to be on national TV. It's going to be Fox's game of the week. You know Troy Aikman and Joe Buck are going to be commentating this game. You know Tom Brady is in the NFC now. We're going to be playing against Gronk, Tom Brady. Boy, that Tampa Bay has a pretty prolific offense now. They got Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, OJ Howard. They also beefed up the offensive line here in the draft. I know their running backs are nothing to write home to mom and pop about, but I think having all those offensive weapons, you're going to see, it's just going to make that running game that much easier. I also think that, Peyton Barber, Ronald Jones, they can each have like a very prolific impact on the offense here. And then they're kind of underrated, but that defense is also young, fast, aggressive, and good. They have a good defense too. At all three levels, they got Vita Vea on that defensive line. They just drafted. I know it's slipping my mind right now, but they took that the linebacker in the draft last year,
Devin White.
Javin White. That also, I mean, their linebacker core might be the best in the NFL, both inside and outside.
David.
Oh yeah, that's a good linebacking core. And then there's their secondary is probably still like their weak point, but they're still pretty solid. I mean, holy cow. You know what?
Yeah.
I think Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay for a reason. And that's because he sees the writing on the wall that the Bucks are not the laughing stock that they've been for like the last 10 years. They are on the up and up. So
yeah, I mean, I gotta say, there's two ways to look at the Bucks, and I mean, before I jump into that, I do want to say, we're getting a tough road draw this year. I mean, you got to face Drew Brees down in the Superdome, and then you go face Tom Brady on the road, which, frankly, mid-October down in Florida, it very well could still be a hot, humid game that would favor the Bucks team being used to that environment. But when I look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, an organization that has found no consistent success in God knows how long, and they have the quarterback whisperer, as he is known, Bruce Arians, as head coach, and he couldn't turn number 1 overall pick Jameis Winston into a serviceable starter. I gotta wonder. Bill Belichick could have had Tom Brady if he wanted, and forgive me, Packers fans, for saying this, but the greatest coach of all time, Bill Belichick, says he's done with Tom Brady. I mean, we all saw how Brady was performing toward the end of last year. Really seems to be losing some zip on the ball. And then you go to an offense that, I mean, Brady's been relying on dink and dunk, short running back throws, a tight end who can just go get it. He's been relying on this kind of short passing game for years now. He's now in a situation with 2 big-time deep threats. Does he have the arm to get it to him? Does Rob Gronkowski, after a year out of football, who's to say his body can hold up? He retired because he was having so many problems with his back. Does a year help him, or has he lost, the strength that it takes to take that weekly beating?
He's half the size he used to be.
Every year there's a paper off-season champion, and you look at them and you say, oh man, these guys are terrifying. Yes, on paper, the Tampa Bay offense looks lethal, and I'm going to give Brady credit where credit is due. He is the greatest quarterback of all time. I wonder, though, does he still have it? And with the shortened offseason, is everything going to, adhere together in the way that they're hoping it will? maybe, they were what, a 7-9 team last year with Winston tossing up 30 picks. Brady's not going to toss 30 picks. But at the same time, is he going to throw 5,000 yards like Winston did? I could see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers letting down some of those primetime networks that everyone wants to get the Bucks and Brady on primetime now. They haven't proven anything yet.
Oh, I agree. So you pulling with the green? It sounds a lot like you're gonna pull a Packer win on this one, huh?
We got the extra week to prepare, and I think we pull it out. I think Brady is going to start declining a lot faster than people are anticipating. I very much trust Bill Belichick's judgment there.
I very much think that, agree with that. Tom Brady's going down to Tampa basically just to pick up some free paychecks, some nice
Guy
paychecks.
took a lot of pay cuts his whole career. Now he's in a income tax free state, making $50 million over 2 years.
And that weather in Tampa is not bad either. You get to hang out on the beach in your bye week, so it's a whole lot nicer than the beaches of Massachusetts. Cape Cod ain't that warm in October and November compared to like Saint Pete Beach there down there in Tampa. So I think Brady's just kind of going down there and just enjoy, basically enjoy himself. It's kind of like a little bit of a vacation, and he just has to go and play some football on Sundays. No pressure though. So,
and they are, another thing to consider is they are relying on, they took a first round tackle, right tackle, with their first pick. That's a lot of pressure to put on a young guy, especially just week 6. You can have all the receiving weapons you want if the offensive line isn't holding up, and God knows we have got a pass rush. I think we're gonna give him some fits.
So this is just an interesting game. There's so many dynamics. It's going to be the game of the week in the afternoon. It's the Battle of the Bays. I've always enjoyed the Battle of the Bay games. Tampa used to be part of the Packers division back in the day when there was only 3 divisions, and Green Bay was in the Central Division along with Tampa Bay. Back when there's 5 teams through a division, so we are familiar with playing Tampa Bay. And then you also get that Rodgers versus Brady dynamic, and we've kind of been robbed of those over the years. I mean, yes, they played against each other, but
Matt Flynn started at least one of those games and had one of the all-time Packers performances. I might add. 6 touchdown game.
Played great, played out of his mind. Had us in it to win it right until the end there. And
earned himself a lot of money in that game.
Are you thinking of the Detroit game he played in Week 17, by the way, where he had 6 touchdowns?
Oh, maybe that was it, but I believe it was the same year, and he kept in the game.
He played phenomenal. I don't think he threw six TDs, but he basically we were only down by we were within a touchdown winning the game, and Matt Flynn basically had to lead us on a game-winning drive. And the issue was that he just didn't have the reps with the first team offense, and he wasted too much of the clock under a minute with no timeouts left, and he just didn't know what to do in the no huddle offense, and he had to basically look to the sideline and get the call in. And whereas Rodgers were just taking over himself and just taking over, so we basically just ran out of time. But he kept us in that game. He went toe to toe with Tom Brady, and he kept us. That was prime Brady and prime Belichick, and McCarthy and Flynn drew up a hell of a game plan that game. And unfortunately, we lost. But I think we would have definitely won with Rodgers. For this one, I don't know, man. It's just kind of like one of them gut feelings. I can certainly see Green Bay win this game. I don't think Tampa Bay wins this game because of their offense. I just think that this is almost kind of like a coming out party for their defense a little bit. I'm just going to go with an upset win and go Tampa on this. I don't know. It's just one of them things. We're down there in Tampa. I I mean, it's not like they're good on paper, but I think they're good on the field as well. They went 7-9 with a quarterback that threw 30 picks, last year, and Brady's not going to do that. I think they're firmly going to play to their strengths. Their defense is the strength of this team now, whereas they certainly got a ton of weapons on offense too. Though they got more weapons on offense than we do, and Brady just kind of has to manage the game. He just can't throw picks. He's got the weapons. The weapons are going to make plays for him and make his job easier. He just has to hit the open guy and then also just let the defense just do its job. I think it's gonna be a close game. I just think Tampa Bay squeaks this one out. I think it's gonna be a great game though. I'm really looking forward to watching it. So
we've got the first diverging pick on the schedule, and I think the key does come down to Brady and the Brady performance versus the Winston performance.
Mm-hmm.
One way to look at it is that Winston threw 30 picks and they won 7 games. Brady's not going to throw 30 picks. Another way to look at it is Winston threw for over 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns to receivers that primarily thrive on the deep ball. They're not after the catch guys, really. Brady hasn't relied on that type of receiver since Randy Moss, I would say. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how he adjusts. Maybe the GOAT has still got it in him. Maybe I'm underestimating the guy here. But I don't think everything's going to be quite the honeymoon that people are painting it right now. And I do think Green Bay leaves this game 4-1.
All right. You got 4-1. I got 3-2. I do believe that we are a very good football team, but I do fully believe in the term regression to the mean. And we went 13-3 last year. I think that we will certainly be a playoff team again this year, but I do not see us going 13-3. I think this is going to be one of them games that kind of proves it. This is just going to be one of them games that we just kind of let slip through our fingers. I think you're going to see Matt LaFleur at the press conference there Sunday night around 7:38 p.m. just kind of being up there saying we had it. It was in the bag. We could have won this game, but we just kind of let it slip through our fingers. So hopefully our young guys learn from this and they improve from it and use it as a learning experience, blah, blah, blah. You know what Matt LaFleur says with his coach talk, but I see that as this game. So moving on.
You got an MVP pick for that game?
Oh, yeah. I'll go back real quick. MVP for the Packers or MVP for the Bucks?
Well, you think the Bucks are winning, so pick your Bucks MVP.
Let's see here. Great question. Godwin. Chris Godwin. I think we're going to have a tough time trying to guard Godwin. Unless we put J.R. Alexander on, and then we put Kevin King on Mike Evans.
Kevin King matches up well against Mike Evans. Both big physical guys.
Yeah, which if we do that, then I do think that Mike Evans has the better game, though. But not taking anything away from Kevin King. On paper, we do match up pretty decently with their players. Even tight end now. I mean, Kirksey's a much better coverage linebacker than Blake Martinez is. It's just tough. I'm still gonna go with either Evans or Godwin, whoever J.R. Alexander does not line up against.
I'm surprised you don't pick Gronkowski there, given how unproven we are in the middle of the field.
I don't even think Gronkowski can be a starter on that team. To be honest with you, I mean,
really,
no, he is. I mean, they're gonna do a lot of two tight end sets. I mean.
You think he's going to be a red zone specialist?
Have you seen Gronkowski, dude? I'm bigger than Rob Gronkowski is these days, dude. He is a shell of himself. He lost so much weight when he retired. Yeah, I'm sure he's eating 3 cheeseburgers a day now, trying to put that weight back on. But as you said, man, his best days are clearly behind him. OJ Howard, I think, is going to be tight end 1 on that team. Now, I mean, there's a few ways you can look at it. I think OJ Howard is the better tight end on that team at this point. However, with Brady being the quarterback and him, being best friends with Gronkowski, he could force feed the ball to Gronkowski going forward, where when he really should be, looking OJ Howard's way more. But I don't see. Yeah, it's very, very possible that one of the tight ends emerges as the MVP of the game, but I don't think it's Gronkowski.
Yeah, I got to say, with coming from the end that I think the Packers win, I see it being a defensive guy. I think someone like Zadarius Smith he could have a real good game. And, that's not to say I think we shut down the Tampa offense. I think they are going to put up a lot of points, but I think someone like C. Smith can have enough splash plays to be the difference in the game.
Also, not for nothing, I can grab Gronkowski. You might want to be careful running across the middle. I mean, Adrian Amos could fucking kill him if he wanted to, for lack of a better term. I mean, holy cow, Adrian Amos could just light him up, So, interesting. But we are moving on to a 1:00 game 1 week from our matchup with Tampa. We're going to be traveling. We're on back-to-back road games. We are traveling down to Houston to take on the DeAndre Hopkins-less Houston Texans. You know what? I'll just get right to it. I see Green Bay win this game. I see Houston kind of on the down and down going forward. I mean, they got pieces. Sure, they do. They got Watson. Even without Hopkins, their receivers are still good. The defense is always going to be pretty good. But I just don't think. I just think we have more talent on our roster to overcome. From a talent to talent perspective, we just have a more talented team. Even in Houston, I don't even think this is gonna be one of the games that's gonna be broadcasted on TV. I think it's just gonna be one of them. The only way you can watch it is to be a resident of Wisconsin or have the NFL Sunday ticket. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're giving this game enough credit, Andrew. I mean, you're talking about two teams that were in their respective conference championship games last year. And yes, Bill O'Brien is a madman, trading, just pretty much giving away DeAndre Hopkins and the year before Clowney. But, despite their questionable moves as of late, you're still talking a regular playoff contender, a team with, Deshaun Watson, you could make the argument he finishes the year as a top 3 quarterback in the league. There's a lot of elite talent on this team. They play hard, and frankly, I'm calling an upset here. 2 weeks in a row on the road, coming off of probably a roller coaster game against Tampa. I think we dropped this one.
So we are matched back up again. So we're both at 4-2 then right now, huh? Yep.
Yeah.
4-2. Yeah. So we just flip-flopped our 2 road games. Do you got an MVP for Houston in this game then?
I think it's gonna be their magic man, Deshaun Watson. You watch this kid play, and they are in every single game because of him and his ability to just flip that switch and elevate the guys around him. Obviously losing DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best wide receivers in the game, that's going to hurt. Having said that, their wide receivers are still better than ours overall. They've got they traded for Brandon Cooks, proven number 1 on multiple teams. They got Will Fuller, dangerous deep threat. They've got Kiki Kuti, another dangerous deep threat. Kenny Stills. I mean, when you're rolling out Kenny Stills, a viable number 2 in your 4 spot, or maybe even 5, because you know who else they have? Randall Cobb. He's going to be their slot guy. He's going to do a lot of that short game work. His best days are clearly past him, but the fact is, this is going to be an offense that spreads the ball around, and Deshaun Watson, he's going to find the open guy when there's not an open guy, he's going to take off and run. I think the Texans, just something about their team makeup. They're not a sexy pick. They haven't had dominant postseason performances to put them on the national stage, but they're loaded with talent, and I just see this being a letdown for us. I do think it's a close game, but I think Deshaun Watson earns MVP honors and takes the W here.
All right, well, I'm going to go similar but opposite. I'm just going to go with MVP being the quarterback, the starting quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. By this time, we're going to go with Jordan Love as the MVP of this game. He's going to supplant. he's going to take over for Rodgers' poor performance up to this year, and he's going to set the world on fire and never look back, just like Favre did. Nope, but in all seriousness, Rodgers will be the MVP of this game for me. It's going to be an indoor game on the turf. I believe, off the top of my head, just watching just reminiscing about the former Texans games that we played under the Rodgers era. He's always played pretty well against Houston as well, whether it's at home or in Houston. I'm going to go with Rodgers. I don't even think I have picked Rodgers for an MVP yet this year, so I'm almost halfway through the season, and Rodgers wins my MVP for the game for the first time so far. So we are at 4-2 each. The Packers will be 4-2, and a potentially, maybe somewhat more seasoned Vikings team comes back around. This time they are coming into Lambeau Field. The frozen tundra of Lambeau Field.
Not quite frozen yet.
Not yet. Well, you know what? By the time we get to like week 15, 16, I'll hit you with another frozen tundra comment. But Vikings are coming in. I'm okay with this as well. I mean, Minnesota's halfway through the season. I don't know if they have their bye week or not yet at this point. I don't have the Vikings schedule in front of me, but they're still gonna be a young team. And they're coming into Lambeau this time. I think same result as last time, really. If not even tougher for Minnesota, because they got to deal with the Green Bay crowd this time. Green Bay wins this one. We're going to be moving up to 5-2. I think we're going to sweep the Vikings this year. I mean, when you're talking about division rivals, I mean, they're so tough. Even when the teams are really bad, they always just seem to come out and play your division rivals a little bit tougher. So yeah, even I don't see Minnesota being a very, very they're not gonna be a bad team, but I see them maybe going like a 6-10, 7-9 this year.
Really?
Just because of how young they are, man. Yeah, I just see that.
You're talking about a team that went to New Orleans and beat the Saints in the playoffs in overtime. Yeah, I know there's been a lot of turnover, but you're saying they dropped to 6 wins?
I said 6-10 or 7-9, but yeah, when you lose 8 defensive players and you also lose arguably your best offensive player as well, it's tough. I know you replaced him with a rookie, and he's a promising rookie, but I mean, come on, man. At some point, war of attrition, think back to what we looked like when we were a playoff team, but we were so decimated with injuries that we're playing Ladarius Gunter against Julio Jones, man. I mean, that's kind of where Minnesota's going to be at for a while until their rookies develop.
Yeah, I mean, you got to keep in mind, yes, they've lost people, but they still have the best safety tandem in the league between Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris. They've got.
Are they still going to be the best in the league with 1 year older? It's the same group. They haven't replenished it. Whereas you got up and coming young safety duels. Adrian Amos, Darnell Savage, anyone? They could be the better safety duo by this year than
wouldn't it be nice? But I'm just saying, don't overlook the Minnesota Vikings. They are stacked with talent. They've got a proven defensive head coach that, yeah, they've got a lot of new guys, but he's going to have them playing hard. And then they've still got elite all pro level players on that defense. Danielle Hunter,
Hunter's good.
I mean, when you look at his sack numbers for his first few years in the league, he is up there with the all-time greats. And there's still a chance they bring Everson Griffin back. That door hasn't been closed. They brought in a free agent defensive tackle run stuffer that a lot of Packers fans were really hoping for in Michael Pierce. There is talent on that team. Now, having said that, I agree with you. I think we take the W here. Playing in Lambeau. I think we have the edge. I think it's going to be another close game. But division games, most of the time, I like taking the home team, and I think, personally for me, coming off of what I see as a letdown game against the Texans, I think LaFleur is going to have this team fired up. November football starting, and starting to see the playoff picture, just barely starting to form. I think we come out and we sweep the Vikings 2 years in a row, and man, that is a sweet thing to say right there.
I love that. I will also add, I think that by the end of this game, you're going to see those two geriatric safeties applying for their AARP card by the end of the season. So.
I don't know about that, but I will say I'm calling Aaron Rodgers his MVP right here. I gave it to Aaron Jones in the first matchup. I think by this point in the season, we've had a lot of time to get the kinks in the offense worked out. Rodgers built up trust with some of his young growing receivers, and I think we feast on those young cornerbacks they've got there. And I say, hey,
I will agree with that one as well. Actually, I don't think we've agreed on an MVP yet this year. In the same game for game MVP, I'm gonna go with Rodgers as well. For me, this is gonna be a back-to-back game with Rodgers as MVP. Kind of building himself a little bit of a case, at this point with back-to-back game MVPs, as well as I fully think he's gonna play solid as well. I think he's gonna he might not be the front runner for like a league MVP or anything like that, especially with the system that we run now, but. He's gonna the media will definitely be talking about him almost like a resurgence of Aaron Rodgers type thing, and like Spike and their Skip and Shannon and stuff. They'll be talking about that in their shows and this and that. But with that being said, we do sweep the Vikings for a second straight year. I think we both agree, and we will move on to 6-2, which I will be happy with that. So moving on to week 9. Oh no!
Wait. Is it 6-2 or are we at 5-2 right now?
No, 6-2. 5-2. 5-2. You're right, because we had the bye week. 5-2. Yes. 5-2. We're going back to that place again, dude. I just put my eyes in my hand. I had to look down away from the screen because not the game I even want to talk about. I don't even want to talk about this, man. Oh man. Why do we have to go back to San Francisco again, dude?
On a short week, no less. Thursday night game, coming up a divisional game.
We ain't gonna win this. We ain't gonna win this.
The fact is, we just we're still outclassed by the Niners. They have more talent in the trenches. They have more positional talent. And frankly, their coaching staff has proven more talent thus far.
Yeah. I think a lot of this. Yeah, they got more talent at the moment, but what goes understated, no one talks about this, is their coaching staff. I think right now is just a more talented coaching staff than ours. We were out coached both games last time we played last year. They were more physical with us. But we could not make adjustments, and if we tried to make adjustments, if they tried, the general public didn't know about it because of San Francisco's elite coaching, able to just basically shut down any attempt of any adaptations and not even make you aware of any adjustments that were being made. So unless San Francisco was completely decimated by injuries at this point in the season, I don't see us winning this. It just has a short week. It kind of pisses me off that even got to put this on freaking national TV again.
Yeah,
we got to do this. I mean, whatever. And then us Packer fans got to go a week and a half after this after playing them. I mean, maybe we pull it out. Who knows? Like, it's the NFL. Anything can happen. I'm just, let's just try to be like realistic and not, have like, a pipe dream. But yeah,
I mean, I do think we play them closer than we did
yeah,
the 2 times last year. I think this is going to be sort of coming out party kind of game for AJ Dillon. I think this is the type of game that our this year's draft class was built for. I think we want to slow it down and make it a good old fashioned slobber knocker. Now, having said that, I still don't see the defensive line that's going to stop their running game. I think our running game is going to keep it closer than it was in the past, but they're just still the more talented team, particularly in the trenches, and I do think they take the victory here. MVP, whichever one of their running backs gets the most carries that week.
yep. Good say. I mean, let's just move on to like a new topic. Like
So
it is
five
what
and
it is.
three then.
Five and three. I mean, I don't even want to talk about MVPs for this. Look, we're just gonna skip this one. So yeah, all right. I'm
Just what
much
the
better
doctor
game.
ordered.
Yeah, just what the doctor ordered. You know what? Let's make a not so bold prediction. Say Green Bay's going to win this one.
I
Now
think
this is
Green Bay comes out angry, and I think they
yeah,
trounce Jacksonville.
now this is the NFL. Anything can happen. Yes. I mean, it's happened all the time. Like a couple years ago, when like the game that cost McCarthy his job, we lost to like the 1-12 Cardinals or something like that. I mean, yeah, it can happen, but I think Green Bay's got, they're not the team that they were back then. Coming off that like a bad San Francisco loss, coming up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which seem to be in yet another rebuilding mode again, even after making like a 1-year playoff run, and then
I
they have
mean,
to go right back
frankly,
to
at week 10 in the season, it would not surprise me if Jacksonville is starting to go into tank for Trevor mode. I
they
mean,
need a quarterback.
I
They
think
need a
they are.
quarterback.
I think they're up for. I definitely think they have a shot at getting number one overall pick. I think Gardner Minshew. There's something there. I definitely think he'll have a long NFL career as a backup at the very least, if not a middling starter. But can he carry the team on his own? No,
I
he's
mean,
not that talented of a guy. And this team is coming apart. Their most talented players, Leonard Fournette wants out. The defensive end, Yannick, he wants out. This team is unraveling, and
yep.
we are going to beat them up. I'm going to say bold prediction right here. We win by 3 touchdowns.
You know what, Jacksonville Jaguar fans, you can come at me in the comments if you want, but you guys are welcome, by the way, because your best quarterback you've ever had in your franchise was our backup quarterback. So, I mean, you're the face of your when I think of the Jaguars, like you think of like just the Jaguars. What's the first play that pops in your head? Mark Brunell. Okay, yeah, he was Brett Favre's backup, and you guys just Brunel, he was a quality starter and stuff in the league, but he's literally, you've had some good players come and go throughout your franchise, including Tony Baselli, who is arguably your best player you've ever had. But I mean, your best quarterback you've ever had is Mark Brunel. I mean, you guys need a franchise elite quarterback. I mean, they just never had that. Have had that. So Green Bay wins this game. Uh, it's getting scary to say. I can almost see, like, in my mind, I'm thinking Aaron Rodgers kind of going off again in this game. But, um, I think I can see anyone. Like, it's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Rodgers go off. Jones could go off. This could be a defensive complete shutdown where we shut down their offense because they don't really have too many. Like, if we can, so the only issue would be their running game because that's our issue is we have trouble stopping the run. If they can get Leonard Fournette going and if he's healthy at this time in the season and they're just pound the rock with him and then he's effective. Like I already know the strategy. They're going to pound the rock, hope to like wear the defensive line out a little bit with Fournette, and they're hoping that they're going to get the safeties and corners to creep up and try to hit us with some play action deep passes. So if I'm Patton,
and they do have some talent there. DJ Chark, he's an ascending deep ball receiver.
So we got D.D. Westbrook.
Yeah, I mean, so they've got some talent there, but yeah, I mean, I think we pull so far ahead so early that they can't rely on the run game. And
plus, it's in Green Bay. It's in Green
you
Bay
got
as well.
You got Gardner Minshew chucking balls up, hoping for a miracle. I'm calling this as a coming out game for Darnell Savage. I think he's our MVP. I see one, maybe even two interceptions. I think he will be all over the field, tackling machine. This game is going to get this team right back on track after it's going to get that bad taste out of our mouth from San Francisco.
I'm glad you mentioned Darnell Savage because I was very, very close to picking him to be my MVP for week 2 when we played Detroit. Like that's like he was in my mind. I was almost going to think about throwing out Darnell Savage. So, but I did not. I also agree with you. I don't know if we win by 3 touchdowns, but I do think that this could probably be our most convincing win of the season, which I don't know what week 11 is off the top of my head, but in my mind, there is a certain division rival that has not popped up once yet on the schedule, and we're in week 11. So if it is who I think it is, it is not. Holy cow. We're playing the new look Indianapolis Colts.
So we're at 6-3 heading into the Colts, correct?
Correct, 6-3.
All right.
6-3 heading into Indy. We're going to be playing on that turf again. It's a 1:00 game. Cody, do you think this is going to be broadcast on TV? You think this is going to be one of them Wisconsin only / NFL ticket games?
I think it'll probably be, a Wisconsin only kind of game just based on other stuff going on in the league. Now, having said that, at this point in the year, playoffs starting to take shape, I think this is going to be a big game for both teams because honestly, I could see both teams leading their division at this point. I think the Colts, I really respect their coaching staff. I think Frank Reich is a really underrated guy, and I think he's going to do wonders for Phillip Rivers' career. I think the last couple of years of his career, with all the offensive talent he's surrounded with, particularly that rock solid offensive line, I think Rivers is going to have a comeback player of the year kind of year, and this is going to be a big battle. You could look at both of these teams and say dark horse Super Bowl candidates. In every sense of the word dark horse, I don't think either of us are at the top of anyone's list. But I could definitely see a world where, maybe we meet the Indianapolis Colts in a rematch for the Super Bowl. It's you never know. Both teams got a lot of talent.
Holy cow! Did you really just throw a Super Bowl potential matchup with the Colts? Ooh, wow!
I'm saying dark horse. It's possible. I really think Phillip Rivers is going to have a career year. I mean, you look at the offensive line. You got T.Y. Hilton. You got they just drafted Jonathan Taylor. Plus they got Marlon Mack. There's a lot of talent on that team. And then you forget about their defense. Has got guys like Darius Leonard on there. It's going to be a good team.
So I'm not completely disagreeing with you. I'm gonna before I even get into my analysis of it, who do you got win this game?
I think we're the more talented team. And even though it's on the road, I do think we take it.
I got Green Bay win this game as well. Everything that you've just mentioned, I believe you're accurate. So you got Rivers, who should do a lot better than he did in San Diego, one would think. T.Y. Hilton, very underrated receiver. You got a pretty dynamic duo there with Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack. But everything when you just say that, they kind of just seem like a poor man's version of Green Bay. So, I mean, Philip Rivers, Aaron
That's a good
Rodgers,
way to look at it. Yeah.
T.Y. Hilton, Devontae Adams, Marlon Mack, and Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, Jamal Williams. We kind of like at this point we have three-head monster. That's not so much as a two. Um, so I'm going with Green Bay on this one as well. I think it's gonna be a pretty close battle. Um, Potentially less than 7 points. It might even come down to like almost like a Mason Crosby field goal type thing.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go with a Green Bay. I think it would be. I would do Green Bay at least a touchdown, like 7 to 10 point win for Green Bay if it was in Green Bay. But being in Indy, um, I'm gonna go with like a 3 field goal win with Crosby in this one. I think it's a pretty gonna be a tight game. Philip Rivers has always played extremely well against Green Bay as well. If you look back at his games, I think his like career game of all time is probably
Yeah.
coming against Green Bay as well. I think he's thrown for over like 500 passing yards in like one game
Yeah.
against
Yeah.
Green Bay.
I remember that
So
game. Ate us
yeah,
alive. Uh, but I'm hoping different result here. We got some more talent on defense now. We've got an offense that's should serve the defense better. But having said that, I do think really tight game. I almost think we're not quite playoff atmosphere yet, but I think this is going to be a big test game for a lot of our younger guys. And I think one of the most grizzled old vets on the team, Mason Crosby. I think he takes MVP honors in this game.
so whereas I did say that Crosby's gonna like be that X factor, and he very well could be. This is gonna be the game where Philip Rivers has been known to rack up some picks in some games. I think this is the game I'm gonna go with Donnell Savage being a game changer, with potentially getting a pick, at least one interception, if not two, at least one interception. But that one interception is gonna come in a clutch time to potentially set up a Mason Crosby game-winning field goal. So.
So you and I are both pretty high on Darnell Savage this year, and that's something we talked about in our fatefully lost defensive
Video.
episode.
We will get back there in some point in the future. We will do an updated depth chart hypothesis when we get a more solid understanding of the roster. That was definitely my more enjoyable of the two podcasts we did last week. That is, hey, at least we now have some lost footage that's somewhere out there, like it's like in the cloud somewhere maybe. So, well, someone out there, if we get big enough, will find it and try to piece it together.
So after this game, we are 7-3. Kind of feeling like we're in the clouds. We're coming into the run up to the
7-3.
playoffs at 7-3.
7-3.
At this point, I think leading the division and now facing our oldest rival, the Chicago Bears, for the first time. 12 weeks into the season, facing them at Lambeau.
On a Sunday night game, our second Sunday night game of the season. Week 12, a lot, like when you get into this point in the season, it's tough to make predictions, because so many things can happen. I mean, God forbid something happens to Rodgers in like week 4, week 5. I mean, like everything we're talking about now is just be like thrown out the window. But in a vacuum, with everything consistent at the moment, I am surprised that we're playing Chicago this late in the season, and I'm all for it though. In fact, I do wish that if it was anything, we could be playing them like the schedule we're flip flop, because I do know we're playing the Bears in week 17. But however, that is in Chicago. I would have loved to play Chicago in Green Bay in week 17 when it's going to be like freezing. It's still going to be pretty cold in on November 29th, late at night in Green Bay. You know what? This might be the toughest game to predict, because it could really go so many different ways. You know what? I have been adamant about of my regression to the mean statement. I do think we're an extremely good football team. In fact, I do make the argument that we are a better football team going into this year. But our record might not indicate that. So, like, you can be a better football team and not have a better record. Um, I think our Super Bowl winning season is evident of that. I think we went like 10-6 that year and like barely made the playoffs because we had to run the table. Like our playoffs started in like week 14, but we had the talent to like do it. It just was what it was. I think the Bears probably just kind of get us on this one, dude. I mean, and there's no shame in that. The Bears have a good football team. If Nick Foles can kind of put it together, or if Trubisky somehow turns it around, they just need competent quarterback play, and they can take it to the next level. That's their Achilles heel is the quarterback play. Like their defense is elite, their offense is pretty good. The system that they run fits their players. Nagy kind of regressed a little bit on paper statistically, but I would just kind of chalk that up to more of like just inconsistent quarterback play than Nagy himself.
I definitely think there were some major coaching gaffes there, but I mean, they had quality running backs and they should have been utilizing them more. I have no idea why they didn't.
Well, maybe they do. Maybe they do this year.
Yeah, and I mean that's so yeah, you're right. Chicago, a lot of people are sleeping on them. You know, they still have an elite defense, and frankly, I think the defense is going to step forward this year from where they were last year. It was the first year after Vic Fangio left and Chuck Pagano came in to be the D coordinator. So I think the defense takes a step forward this year, and I think they're going to be a top unit. So I think this is going to be a real ugly game. That said, I kind of think it's a blessing that we are facing them this late in the season, because I think by week 12, man, I think that quarterback room unravels. Foles has never proven he can even stay healthy for a season, let alone string together half a season's worth of competent play. Trubisky at this point, he's got games on tape where he looks worthy of the number 2 overall pick. But that's, maybe 1 in every 10 games. At this point, I think the guy's confidence is shot. They pretty much put the nail in the coffin when they traded for Foles. So I think you get to week 12, whoever's starting, I think it's going to be, pardon my French here, I think it's a shit show. I think people are going to start calling for Nagy's job after this year because they're not going to be able to get enough just base, competent, turnover-free quarterback play in order for that defense to win the games. So I do think we pull the victory out here at home, night game in Lambeau. But so you're calling the loss?
I am. I'm calling the loss. My MVP of this game will be Khalil Mack. I think he probably takes Rick Wagner's lunch and spends it, and then he goes over to Rick Wagner's mom's house and also eats the dinner that she cooks, and then helps himself to some seconds too.
I've got a different narrative about that. I think we're going to introduce Mr. Mack to Rick Wagner's new friend AJ Dillon. I think we are going to smash him in the Mack's face all game long. And I think that heavy hitting thunder is going to open things up for lightning Aaron Jones to take game MVP.
So here's a little fun fact. When I am having a hard time sleeping at night, the one thing that really like puts me right to bed is I just start thinking about how the Bears not only took Mitchell Trubisky at number 2, but they traded up to get Mitchell Trubisky, and they not only traded up to get Mitchell Trubisky, but in doing so, they passed on Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes in doing so. So as soon as like by the end of like what I just said, actually like circulates around in my brain, I'm usually just out like a baby. So
Yeah,
I love it.
God is good
I love
because
it.
Bears are managed like the Bears are.
Yep, Bears are going to
Um,
be Bears. Who is going to be your MVP of this game?
so I think it's going to be Aaron Jones. But since you're picking the Bears, who you said Mac, right?
I'm going Mac. Yep,
All right. Now, one thing I do want to ask before we move on to the next game here. So
absolutely.
you said that you see the Vikings as a 6 or 7 win team this year. So who do you see being the stiffest competition in our division? Is it Chicago?
Absolutely. Yep, Chicago. hmm
Okay. Well, what kind of record are you predicting for Chicago?
I think it's going to come down to the wire between Chicago and Green Bay. I can see Chicago. I can see Chicago going anywhere between 10-6 to 12-4. And I think we're going to be also be in that mix as well. So um, there could exist a world where we're both about 11-5, like 11-5, 10-6, somewhere around there, kind of battling for that crown. We could be like we could have the same record at like 10-5. It's kind of almost trend that way in terms of where I'm at right now. I'm not sure what my record is at the
So
moment.
you are at 7-4 right now. I am at
Seven
eight
and
and
four.
three. So
So
I mean, if you see it being a battle down to the wire with Chicago, this home loss that could have major ramifications,
yeah,
particularly in a stacked NFC. There
I
might only be one path to the playoffs, and that would be winning the division. I don't know if we get a
yeah.
wild card team this year.
I could potentially see in it somewhere where like we're going to week 17 where both 10-5. One team's gonna go 11-5, the other one's gonna go 10-6. That's kind of like right in the bubble of where I said where I see both these teams kind of being at. So uh, I got Green Bay at 7-4 right now. We're getting down to the wire. 7-4, you're certainly on the up. Like you're a winning team, but there is some reason to worry, some reason to sweat a little bit. Still got to kind of have a dominant finish in a dominant fashion. So, I got 7-4. You are at 8-3.
Yes, sir.
All right, going into Philly is coming into Green Bay. It's going to be a Sunday game, Sunday afternoon game. This seems like one of them perfect Joe Buck, Troy Aikman games again for the game of the week type games. Philly, Green Bay always seems to fit the bill. We got Carson Wentz going up against Aaron Rodgers. Um, you got Doug Peterson, head coach of the Eagles, with the ties to Green Bay as Brett Favre's backup back in the day. Philly is, they're still a force to be reckoned with. They're a pretty good football team. They're very well coached. I got a lot of respect for Doug Peterson. I think he is a good coach. And I think this is going to be a tough game. Probably a lot closer than a lot of people think it's going to be. I'm going to have this is going to be one of them games that's kind of like one in the trenches, I think. I think this is going to be a game where you kind of see like a Kenny Clark kind of like come out in this one, kind of has himself the game of the year type thing. I'm not ready to call him like the MVP of this game, but I think he is a game changer. Very seldom do those big boys on the defensive line actually get named an MVP despite having a dominant performance. But I think he's going to be a true game changer in this game. Uh, However, I see someone probably like an Aaron Jones busting out and being the MVP of this game. So, needless to say, I do think Green Bay squeaks this out. So, for my personal record, we're going to be moving up to 8-4 on the season, and moving into Week 14 at 8-4, and feeling a little bit better about ourselves after that loss against Chicago. Cody, where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, people forget how good of a team Philly is. Really since their all-time great Super Bowl victory over the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a hell of a game to watch. So entertaining. That's why you watch football, is for games like that. Since then they've been a consistent playoff contender. Last year, they were a playoff team facing Seattle, and Carson Wentz gets hurt on like the first drive of the game, and Josh
Unlucky.
McCown he goes and plays his heart out and kept them in the game. because they have enough talent surrounding him on that team. And that was even with just wide receiver group decimated by injuries. They were rolling out guys that would make the Green Bay Packers wide receivers look like superstars.
Yeah.
So, they're a tough team. And we did lose to them last year, although I do think we should have won that game. We were very close. Devontae Adams goes out with the injury. We just didn't adjust in quite the way we should have. To me, this seems like a classic trap game. Coming off
I agree with that.
Tough divisional game. That said, I just think we're the more talented team. It's at home in December. I'm kind of surprised with where I stand right now with the record, but yeah, I think we pull out the W here. I think Aaron Rodgers, I think he might make Philly regret paying all that money to Darius Slay and find out, yeah, he's good, but he ain't that good. I could see Aaron Rodgers putting up an MVP performance in this game and taking us to 9-3.
Certainly nothing wrong with that. I got Green Bay win this game as well. Yeah, I'm glad we're in agreement because I would love to beat Philly one more time in this season. Moving on, we're going to finish up our series with Detroit in Week 14. It's going to be a 1:00 game. I don't see this one being on national TV. It's be a classic Wisconsin game / NFL ticket game. Let's see. In a nutshell, I think we win this game. We could lose it though. We really could. I just think that we at this point in the season, just we're kind of building off of what we built last year. We have a lot of this. We don't have we have a young team, but a lot of our young guys are we brought back basically every single starter that we had on the team last year. We're starting to become those players are starting to become veterans. They're starting to become pros. I think this is just gonna be one of them games where we just kind of lean on them to take that next step. It'll be like a team win. I see this being like a team win, just an all-around good football game against a pretty good against an underrated football team. Say what you will about Patricia, they still got some talent. Detroit still got some really good talent. Stafford's always a weapon. I think he's the second best quarterback in our division. Kenny Galladay is going to eat. T.J. Hawkinson's going to be that much better. I mean, they still got Marvin Jones. We even mentioned Marvin Jones earlier in the earlier game. I mean, he tore us up, in some games too. Where I was pulling my hair out. I've definitely got some more gray hairs watching Marvin Jones, tear us up. So I think we win. I think it's gonna be a close game. I think this could be another classic, maybe even like we win in overtime. Mason Crosby wins this thing in overtime again, type thing. But I think we win this. So for me, we're going to 9-4 on the season.
Yeah. I think I've got a lot of wins in a row strung together right now, and up against tough teams. And now you're going on the road against a divisional opponent. That's really tough to do in the NFL. But the good teams manage to eke those wins out. And frankly, I see this being a pivotal game in the NFC North, less so for the Packers and more so for the Lions, because I do think this is the game in the season where, maybe with their improvements to the roster, they're hanging around, maybe chasing a wild card. And then I think Daddy's going to lay down the law in this one. I do agree. I think it's going to be a close one. It wouldn't surprise me to see it overtime, but I think this is the game that seals Matt Patricia's fate, and I do not think he returns to the Detroit Lions next year because the Detroit Lions missed the playoffs, and I think this is the game that knocks them out of contention. And really, stringing that many wins in a row together and knocking a a divisional opponent in the mouth, just kicking them
It's
while they're down. I think this is going to be a confidence building game
a statement
heading
game
into
for
the
you
playoff.
then. It's a statement game.
Statement game. Like I said, I do think it's going to be a tight game where the Lions will be threatening to steal it the whole time. But I think the statement is going to be like, hey, everyone doubted us last year. They said we won ugly. They said we weren't as talented as our record showed. Well, guess what? Our identity is that we win ugly. And we're going to do it year in and year out. We don't care what you say. The NFC North belongs to the Green Bay Packers. And I think this game is the statement of that.
We've been talking about doing some commentary on like some old Packer games and here and there. The one game that just popped into my mind because it still blows my mind, and I've never actually watched the game from like beginning to end, and it would be a game I would love to watch actually. Now it's an older game, but it blows my mind that we held Barry Sanders to negative rushing yards in a playoff game. So I've never actually watched that game from beginning to end. It would be a game I would love to just like watch with you for like the first time and like break it down, be like actually watch, like a Green Bay defense shut down like an MVP caliber, like an MVP season, running back to negative rushing yards. Like that's insane. That is like
it's games like that really get my Packers soul tickled. Is those playoff games where you're counting on your all world quarterback to do it, and all of a sudden the defense comes out and they might not have shown up all year, but for that one game, they said, hey, we've got a plan and we are stopping this player and we are asserting our will. That has happened from time to time throughout Packers history. And I just love watching games like that. And I would love to see our defense take some more steps in that direction this year. Having said that, so I've got us leaving this game at what am I 10-3 right now, and
10-3, 9-4,
9-4.
Who's your MVP?
I'll go with a dark horse here. I'm going to say Jay Sternberger.
Oh, I love it, dude. I hope Jay Sternberger's an MVP in one of these games this year. Come on out, big guy. You're the new big dog. This is your yard now.
Or I could even go with a guy like Alan Lazard. He balled out against Detroit both games last year. Maybe some players just play good against some teams.
Yeah.
Could see him having a game for himself too.
Moving on. So we played Carolina last year. It was a really interesting and pretty fun game to watch. You know what? We basically went up against a backup quarterback, and he played pretty well against us. And that all-world running back that they have, named Christian McCaffrey, he ate. However, it kind of came down to the end where we basically stopped Christian McCaffrey at like the 1 yard line.
More like the 1 inch line, man.
Yeah, it was close. And so Cam's gone. But that's fine because we didn't play Cam last year. But they got some good receivers. They got Curtis Samuel. They got DJ Moore. They certainly got Christian McCaffrey. That offense is vastly underrated.
Yeah, and honestly, man, Teddy Bridgewater, I don't think that guy gets the love he deserves.
No.
I think the Vikings screwed up royally by letting him go. Obviously, he had the catastrophic knee injury, but they were in a position to hold on to him. Well, Case Keenum bridged the gap, and you got to remember, Case Keenum took him to the NFC Championship game in a 13-3 season.
Yep.
I think Teddy Bridgewater, in his short time, he showed that, he's not going to be top 5 quarterback, but he can be a winning quarterback. He can distribute the ball. He has a little bit of mobility, very accurate. I think he's going to a team where they've got the running game. They've got. I think their defense is going to be sneaky good this year.
I agree.
It's. I think a lot of people are overlooking the Panthers. I think that's going to be a tough game.
I think they had a really good draft too. I thought Panthers had a really good draft.
Picking up Derek Brown, that was a
Yep,
steal.
yep. So this is a unique game because the NFL released this as kind of being a TBD for the date and time. So it's either going to be on Saturday, December 19th, or Sunday, December 20th. And your guess is as good as mine in terms of time. Cody, do you have any knowledge as to why the NFL hasn't come out with an official date and time for this game? Or I've never actually researched it, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have official knowledge, but I know at this point in the season we're getting to where they start doing the Saturday games, and they kind of
Yep.
flex based on playoff implications. So that's interesting that they they think maybe this game could have playoff implications. So they leave it as a flex game. It's like I said, the Panthers. I think they're going to be better than people think this year. A lot of people think they're just in a full-on tank rebuild. I don't think that's the case. Having said that, they play in a division with the New Orleans Saints, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Atlanta Falcons. I don't think they're getting into the playoffs. I think they are trying to play spoiler at this point in the season. And if things are as close with the Bears as you think they're going to be, this could be an important game.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this one. I can see Green Bay both winning this game and losing this game. Boy, I mean, this is one of them pivotal games, really, when you think about it this late in the season. So if Carolina, gets the win over Green Bay here, at least in terms of for me, Green Bay goes down to 5 losses, I believe, for me on the season. It'd be 9-5, I believe. And I can see that happening. I really can see Carolina winning this game. I think it's a true toss-up. It's going to be one of the games that kind of comes down to the wire. I have a lot of respect for Carolina and what they do. I think they're a team on the ups. I don't think they're in full rebuilding mode. I think they're in a retooling mode right now, and I think they're close. They just need a couple pieces. With that being said, it's late in the season. It's December 19th or December 20th, around Christmas time. They're coming up to Green Bay. It's cold. This is going to be one of them games where I think we just feature the run. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, Jamal Williams. I think Green Bay, I'm going to go with a Green Bay win on this one, only because of the fact that it's late December, and this is kind of when our schedule seems to favor us, because we got a lot of home games in the back end of our schedule, and our new offensive head coach our new coach LaFleur seems to really lean on the run now. So now is kind of when we're going to be getting back to our Lombardi roots a little bit, and I do see Green Bay win this game, but not by a lot.
Yeah. I mean, we're the more talented team, hands down, and we're playing at home, and going off of my projection of the schedule, we've got a lot of momentum at this point, and we just came off a big statement game. That said, it's the perfect storm to me of, every year there's just a clunker game where you scratch your head and wonder how did they lose that? Thinking back to last year, how did we lose to the Chargers? I think there's going to be a clunker game in there at one point, and Carolina is a team that, yes, they're not a cold weather team, but they're built for cold weather. The excellent ground game, short passing, and a solid defensive line. I see us slipping up after a big statement game the week before. So I got us falling to 10-4 here, and MVP Christian McCaffrey, the guy is all world.
So interesting. I mean, when we first started talking about this, in my mind, I was they're probably. I'm gonna say they're gonna lose this one, but then after talking about it, kind of convinced myself into the W. So as I said, it's a true 50-50 for me. But with that being said, we are both at 10-4 right now. We are still things are looking on the up and up. We've reached that double-digit threshold mark, which Rodgers has even come out and said get to 10 wins. Like, you need to at least get to 10 wins before you can think about playoffs. So we got 2 weeks to go. We can still certainly miss the playoffs, but we got to finish strong. So, with that being said, we move on to week 16. This is a late Sunday night game, which now this being this late in the season, it can certainly be flexed out and we can be replaced if it's not, worthy of primetime television. But
It certainly looks worthy, Andrew.
yeah, Tennessee is a underrated football team. They did make it to the AFC Championship game, and Derrick Henry's a beast of a running back. Ryan Tannehill's the consummate game manager, very well coached. No one watches more game tape than probably Mike Vrabel. And the broadcasters are certainly going to be playing up the whole Matt LaFleur, being the offensive coordinator of the Titans, doing that whole connection there. Like, they're going to be talking all about that. And but let's see it for what it is. Tennessee is going to be coming into a very loud, very cold Lambeau Field late at night, a couple days after Christmas. So this would be a game that I would love to go to. A couple days after Christmas, it's late at night. It's the perfect Lambeau Field game. Like, this is one of them football, and it's gonna be a running game. This is gonna be Derrick Henry, like, being featured. This is gonna be Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, Jamal Williams. It could be snowing. It could be like a hailstorm. Like, I'm almost salivating thinking about watching this game because this is gonna be one of them throwback Lombardi era games where
You love watching that kind of
oh yeah, I love that. I love it. I love it. And that's what I want to see. You know what? I do not want to see Rodgers throwing this ball like 30, 40, 50 times in this game. I don't want to see Ryan. I just want to see old school football. I want to see some dudes getting beat up in this game. I want to see just a low scoring game, defensive battle. I want to see all of our running backs get double digit touches in this game. I want to see all, like, Williams, Jones, and Dillon all have at least 10 carries in this game. I think Green Bay is going to win this game. But let's give credit where credit's due. Tennessee Titans, they're a good football team. They're good.
I mean,
and
that's to me the big storyline in this game. Yeah, you're right. The announcers, they're going to talk about the LaFleur connection, all that. To me, the big story here is this is the third conference championship caliber team we're playing this year. We started with the Texans, then the Niners, and now the Titans. The Texans weren't a conference championship. I don't know what I was thinking there. They lost to the Titans, they lost to the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs faced the Titans. So my mistake on that.
But they were up big on the Chiefs in that divisional game. Big time.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, we're facing some extremely high caliber talent this year.
Absolutely.
And once again, you talk about coming to Lambeau in December, and that's supposed to be a big advantage for us. The Tennessee Titans are a team built to deal with that kind of environment. They are a smash mouth, run heavy team with a swarming defense. And people don't give Tannehill enough credit last year. Like, some people look at him as a game manager just based on his prior career with Miami. When you look at his big play throws last year, he was one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, and they have some ascending young receivers. AJ Brown was a rookie, really balled out. He could take another step this year. This is going to be an extremely tough game for us. I think it behooves us to actually not play into the smash mouth mode, because if we do, I think they're a better team at it than us at this point. I think we are better to rely on Aaron Rodgers' arm at this point. They've got a really good defense, but it's not an elite defense. And this is a game where I could see, our receivers making some hay after the catch, it's a snowy game, breaking a big play on, when the circumstances line up right. it's a real toss-up for me, but I think if we win, I do think it's going to be through the air. So
Well,
you're picking Green Bay to win?
yeah, you said if, so I am picking Green Bay to win this, and I think the MVP is going to be our running game. All three running backs are going to share the load in this game. That's not take away from Aaron Rodgers. I think when like when the going gets tough and we need a game winning drive, it's going to be the Aaron Rodgers show. But he's not going to be it's going to be a running game for the first 3 quarters, maybe even 3.5, and then if it's close at the end and we need a game winning drive, boom, you put the ball in Rodgers' hands. But I think a lot of this depends on the elements, whether it's snowing or like what it is outside. But um, I think my bold prediction is Green Bay's going to win this game. It's going to be pretty close, pretty low scoring, and our running back's going to be the MVP. Now you said if, so what do you
Yeah, I
think?
mean, the more I think about it, I hate to pick against the Packers at home in December, but who is going to tackle Derrick Henry? That is the Achilles heel of this team is our run defense, and we are going up against possibly the most dominant running team in the league here. Unless we can pull out to an early lead on Aaron Rodgers' arm, I do think the Titans take this, and that puts me at 2 losses in a row here, dropping the team down to
Wow.
10 and
So
5.
So for the first time, you were at for the whole season. I was at a lower record than you were, and we finally just flipped. I got them at 11-4 right now, and you got them at 10-5. So interesting. And I think based on like the words you were saying, you got clearly have Derrick Henry slash offensive line Tennessee Titans probably being the MVPs of this game. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know who on our defense is
Hmm.
going to bring him down. Like the only way we stop their running game is with
Oh,
11 men to the ball every play. Derrick
Kenny
Henry.
Clark's gonna have his hands full in this game. So.
Derrick Henry makes grown men look like children trying to tackle him.
He
And
is a hell of a running back.
I don't, other than Kenny Clark, I don't
Derek
know a single guy on our defense who it can really claim to be a dominant elite run stopper.
Derrick Henry is what Eddie Lacy could have become. So.
Good blueprint for AJ Dillon. Hope he's
Yeah.
taking notes.
Well, moving on to our final matchup here. We are finishing this in fitting fashion, going up against our all-time rivals, Chicago. Uh, we're looking at Sunday, January 3rd, 1 p.m. We are going into Soldier Field, where we have done many a battle with the Bears going back to the 1930s. Always a classic. As much as I hate the Bears, there's no better rivalry in all of sports than the Packers and the Bears. I will certainly cherish our Packers and Bears rivalry. With that being said, it's probably about the only positive things I'll ever say about the Bears. So this is gonna be a really tough battle. Um, in fact, I feel like I've been almost setting myself up for this the whole match, for this whole podcast here. I, I mean, a lot depends because this whole season, and we're looking at this in the vacuum, but it's the Bears. They're good. They got killer defense. They appear to have gotten better at quarterback. Um, they're still young. They got young offensive skill weapon players. I see the Bears winning this game again. So yeah, that means that the Bears sweep the Packers this year, which really sucks. I hate freaking saying that, but I see the Bears win this game, and that would put me at 11-5, which would be very interesting because I also have the Bears somewhere between 10-6 and 12-4. So if we matched at 11-5, um, in the season, it would give the Bears the clear tiebreaker on that too. So there does exist a world that even though I have the Packers going 11-5, we could still miss the playoffs, depending on how the other divisions do. Um, but I don't know. I just see home field advantage playing into this one, I think if we were to win this game, it's got to be our running game. I think at this point we do have a better running game than Chicago. So if it's like a clear blizzard and we can just rely on our running game, we can pull this out. But boy,
Yeah,
it's just gonna be tough. It's just gonna be
I
tough.
mean,
Cody, what's your thoughts?
I've, everything you've said makes a lot of sense. Tough winter game, relying on the running game. It's in Chicago. Two good teams going up against each other. We're facing an elite defense. That said, I gotta just throw caution to the wind and forget logic and reason and say that when it comes down to team defining moments, classic games with the playoffs on the line, particularly against the Chicago Bears, Aaron Rodgers is a man on fire. The guy, he just does it. Think of how many classic moments in Rodgers' career are slaying the Bears on the last play of the game, with when the stakes are highest. And I think like you seem to think that Chicago is in contention for the division title here, and certainly it sounds like if you have them sweeping the Packers, they probably take the division. Me, on the other hand, I had Green Bay win in the first game. I think, like I said, I think the quarterback situation in Chicago is going to blow up by the end of the year. That said, I think they have enough talent on the team that they're still dangerous, and they are going to want to play spoiler. This is going to be an extremely tough game, but I just think Aaron Rodgers is going to have one of those classic Aaron Rodgers moments, and it's going to come down to the wire. He's going to pull it out, and we sweep the Bears for the second season in a row, and that puts us at 11-5. I think that makes us division champs. And clearly my MVP here, I'm saying Rodgers. You're picking the Bears. Who do you think the MVP would be?
Just that defense. I think it's gonna be a collective effort on the defense. I do want to kind of just like throw this out real quick at you. So Aaron Rodgers has had some phenomenal comeback games against the Bears, and he certainly had their number, more so than not. But I do want to throw a little caution in the wind and do throw out the most important Green Bay game that Rodgers ever played against the Bears. We did win the game, but it was the NFC Championship game, and Rodgers played, for lack of a better term, he played like dog shit pretty much the whole game. He has not always had the Bears number, and perhaps when he needed to play like his best, he played terrible. His exact stats for that NFC Championship game: he threw for 244 yards. He ran for 1 touchdown, threw 0 touchdowns, and threw 2 interceptions. Aaron Rodgers throwing 2 interceptions is basically like Jameis Winston throwing 9 interceptions in that game. So, I mean,
yes, there's no argument that was probably one of the poorest games of Rodgers' career on one of the biggest stages.
Defense got him out in that
granted,
game.
He did come out after that game in the Super Bowl and had an MVP performance.
Certainly.
And you're talking, this is 10 years ago, completely different teams.
Yeah.
I think on the whole, over Aaron Rodgers' career, he has Chicago fears him because they know that when it comes down to the wire, he will just plunge into their heart and tear it right out. I think it's going to be another. I think it's going to be another classic game in Aaron Rodgers' career where, when we look back, there's going to be some highlights of best games against the Bears, and this will be one of them. Not saying statistically it's going to be one of the best, but I think there's going to be a moment.
So despite me having the Bears sweeping the Packers during the regular season, I think the records of both these teams will be good enough to get them both in the playoffs. And if they were to meet in the playoffs, I do think Green Bay would feel like would get the W over the Bears in the playoffs. So I would be okay with Chicago getting us both times in the regular season if it means that we can get them in the playoffs. So,
Well, so we've gone through the entire schedule right now, and both of us have settled on 11-5.
yep.
Which there's no prior discussion on that. We broke it down game by game, and that's how it shook out. So obviously, we don't want to spend too much time talking about something, that's so many months out because so much can change. But do you want to just do a brief rundown on if we're 11-5? How do you see the playoff seeding shaking out?
Yeah, it would be. It's really tough to do without seeing like the schedules of all of our opponents and everything. With that being said, I let me try to put this back into a full screen mode for just me and you. I haven't seen you in about like an hour. I kind of miss you, so I don't know what you look like at this moment. Um, uh, 11-5, I think that would be good enough to get us into the playoffs. If we had the best, I think that would put us like right at the border of having the best record in the conference too, which would be an automatic seed in. The only competition I really see is being from Chicago. I see them right in that range as well, as I said earlier. Even if Chicago finishes with like we both finished 11-5, and for me personally, they get the tiebreaker. I think 11-5 would be good enough to get us into the wild card. I think 11-5 we're going to be in the playoffs with no concern whatsoever. And I do believe that the playoff system has expanded this year as well. So one extra team gets in. So that would at 11-5.
Now,
We
do
would
you know the
certainly be in.
rule for that? Or are they just taking the three highest records after the division winners?
I would now. This is where some fans can probably call me out a little bit because I haven't done the research I probably should. But I do know off the top of my head that only one team gets a bye week. It's only the best team. Only one seed. The one seed gets a bye, and it forces that two seed to kind of play in the wild card round. Uh, but you then get to add an extra team in as well as a result of it. So you'll have, I think, three wild card matchups instead of two within that, and then that two seed coming down to play that seven seed or whatever. The two seed will play the seven seed. So I think if you're going to allow seven teams out of 16, which is almost half the field, to get in, 7 teams out of 16 teams in a conference, that's basically 50%. So 11-5 is certainly going to put you into that conversation. So without question, basically at that point, the top two teams in every division is going to make the playoffs, except for one division. Only one division will have a team, the number two team in the division, not make playoffs. So as long as Green Bay can basically finish in the top two in their division, they're going to be in the playoffs. So and I certainly see that. I don't see Minnesota or Detroit having a better record than Green Bay does this year.
Yeah, and when looking at it, I don't think last year was kind of a crazy anomaly where there were 13-3 teams in the NFC. I don't think we're going to see that this year. I think 12-4 is going to be the highest record in the NFC, just because there's a lot of changes in the conference, and I think it's going to make it harder to win. Honestly, because of the changes, with you got Brady coming to the NFC South, you've got the Cardinals getting a monster trade acquisition in DeAndre Hopkins for their ascending young quarterback. And then you've got the Vikings losing so much talent, but the Bears getting a quarterback shakeup. I think that leaves the door wide open for, I hate to say it, but the Dallas Cowboys playing in that weak division. I think they take the number one seed this year. I think that roster is stacked. I think McCarthy is going to come in invigorated, and he's going to, with the skill set of like the players they have on that team. They've got Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, just drafted CeeDee Lamb. Their tight end, underrated, Blake Jarwin, a really athletic guy. And then they've got Ezekiel Elliott, plus a dominating offensive line. They get to play the Washington Redskins twice a year. I think they take the number 1 seed. I think maybe the record's going to be better than the team itself, because I think some battle-tested teams, I see probably the New Orleans Saints taking the number 2 seed. And I think the Niners are going to fall back to earth a little bit with a Super Bowl hangover. I think the Seahawks take that division with the number 3 seed.
I was just going to say, I'm so glad we don't got to play Seattle this year. It seems we play them every single year in the regular season.
Well, we might have to in the playoffs. I think we're going to be the 4th seed. I do think we ring
our
up
division.
I think we ring up the division winners. And then that's going to put your 3 remaining teams. I think it's probably going to be Niners, Tampa Bay, and
so if we finish at the 4th seed, that would put us up against the 5th seed in the playoffs, which means we would play the best. We would play the best number 2 seed.
Yeah, and that very well could be the San Francisco 49ers or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh my God!
It
could be the 49ers. Could be the Bucs. It could be the Rams. I still think the Rams have a pretty good team. Could be the Seahawks.
Cardinals could really take a big jump.
Could be the Bears.
Could be the Bears. Could be the Vikings. There's a lot up in the air there. I think we're both in agreement that we're making the playoffs, but we're going to have to go into that wild card weekend and face a really tough team, probably a team that we faced earlier in the year. We'll see how it shakes out.
I love it. Well, Cody, as always, it's been a pleasure. It's certainly been another engaging talk. It's always a pleasure. I think it's a perfect time to hit the go home cue on this one. And hopefully cross your fingers that this one works and we can get this uploaded to YouTube. I want to thank all you people who watched our video from a couple weeks ago. Last time I checked, we were at like 1.5 thousand views or something like that. That blew me away. I never would have in a million years thought I would even sniff, like 50 people watching this. So I know we didn't get any comments or any likes on it, but just the fact that Facebook from their data was telling me that 1.5 thousand people watched it was more than humbling for my first video. So hopefully you guys like what we're talking about, and we can keep building upon that. And we're certainly going to come at you with some stuff in the future. If you guys have any suggestions on what you think we should talk about, hit us with a comment or suggestion. After this, we're kind of wide open. Cody, as I said, I think the next direction without any input is we'll kind of do a wait and see on some Packer news. We'll do some daily Packer updates whenever stuff comes out, but we'll kind of transition into just kind of looking at some old games and doing some game by game breakdown, or maybe even doing some top 10 lists or something like that. In terms of different regards with Packer news, or we can even deviate and do something completely different than Packer news and do some video game talk. And I'm not sure what you're playing these days. What video game you currently playing?
Actually a throwback. I been playing Dark Cloud 2, 2003 PS2 release, JRPG. Really enjoyed the first one when I was a kid. This one, a little more kid-oriented than I recall the franchise being. So it's I'm giving it a shot, but it hasn't lit my world on fire. What about yourself?
I'm kind of in a game hole at the moment a little bit. I just got 100% completion on the new Final Fantasy remake. Amazing game. It's the first game I ever got a platinum trophy on for my PlayStation, so that's how much I liked it. So I'm still kind of on that come down from the Final Fantasy VII thing. I'm really thinking about rewatching the Advent Children movie that came out for it, as well as maybe considering playing the PSP game that they came out add-on for it, which was I'm just drawing a blank on that at the moment. Crisis Core. Apart from that, I've had that new Dragon Ball Z Kakarot game just kind of burn a hole on my shelf. I've been thinking about playing that. I have not even popped that in yet. The new Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is also burn a hole there. I've heard some mixed reviews. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's like one of EA's first attempts at the Star Wars game there. So I'm not sure. I'm still doing some Rocket League every now and then. Really looking forward to the Ghost Tsunami that's coming out here in a couple months as well.
That looks good. They actually just dropped a lengthy gameplay video of that today.
Yeah.
I haven't checked it out yet, but that's a good looking one. But I'm sure we'll have plenty of game related stuff to talk about. Coming up. But I know there are some bigger releases coming out in the next couple months.
Mm-hmm.
But as always, it's been a pleasure talking about our beloved Green Bay Packers, and definitely enjoyed breaking down the schedule. And come end of the season, we can look back at this and see either how big of fools we were or the geniuses that we were.
Well, it's documented now, so like it's on record, so we can't take it back now. So with that being said, we'll hit the golden cue. Thank you, Cody. I appreciate it. As to our fans out there, this is Mr. Prolific signing off. This has been episode 2 of the Prolific Thinking podcast, and we hope that if you like what we did, check out episode 1, where me and Cody broke down a lot of other Packers offseason stuff, and keep an eye out for episode 3 coming out. Thank you, and take care.